Now that the physical installation is complete, you're ready to move on to the software commissioning side of your project. Before you can start, you're going to need to connect your Luxon light controller, your LLC, to the local area network of the facility, or possibly to a cellular modem if you want to have remote access into the building. To connect the LLC, you're going to take a standard network cable and you're going to plug it into the network port on your LLC. At this point, this can be plugged into that cellular modem or the local area network, and you can complete the remaining portion of the commissioning using your preferred browser and navigating the software that is all contained inside the LLC. At that point, you can set your behaviors, scheduling functions, and all other attributes for the system, and we're going to show you how to do that now. So now that the physical installation of your lighting system is complete, you can move on to begin the software commissioning portion of your project. Now please note that when you install a Luxon-enabled luminaire, it is going to default to 100% power. So it is going to work like any other traditional luminaire. Once it's connected to your main supply, that light will go to full power, and it's going to stay that way until the control system is introduced. Once that control system is introduced, we're going to use a computer to connect to the software that's inside your Luxon light controller, and we're going to create a floor plan to start off the commissioning process. Let's show you how that happens. To start the software commissioning process, your Luxon certified technician is going to utilize a piece of software called the Luxon Wireless Floorplanner. For the purpose of this presentation, we've already got a project that's open with a floor plan configured, but we're going to demonstrate how the commissioning process functions. When the LLC is active and in the commissioning phase, you're going to see all of the available devices. So these are Luxon-enabled luminaires, possibly other sensors that could be in the project, waiting to be added to the project layout. Over here we have an example of a project layout. This is a fairly simple floor plan that we've created for the purpose of this presentation. But down here you can see an example of a fully completed project once this is all done. The way your technician is going to identify each of the luminaires in your building is they're going to go over this and they're going to do what we call toggle the luminaire. So when we toggle the luminaire, it's going to go from a state of full power to a dim state repeatedly, so toggling up and down, so that you can identify that this luminaire with this unique ID exists in a certain place in the facility. Now, for the example of this presentation, we're going to say that this luminaire is over the metal fabrication section. So we're going to drag and drop that light into the location where it exists inside the facility. Again, we're going to repeat that process for the other luminaires that are in the project. One by one, we see where those lights exist, and we're going to put them in their corresponding location inside the facility. This can go very, very quickly, and you can work within small areas by adjusting the range that you're actually looking for, so lights that are directly in your vicinity, or if you want to look at lights across the entire facility floor, you can do that as well. Once you've identified all of the lights in the project, we've essentially determined where everything goes. The project mapping process is complete. Your technician is going to upload that project into the LLC. So now the LLC will know where all of those luminaires are. We simply upload, and the work that you've done in Floorplanner is synchronized with the LLC itself. At this point, you're ready to start setting the schedules for the various lights that you've got in your building. Now that your floor plan is complete, your technician is ready to begin setting up your schedules and configuring the scenes and other behaviors of your Luxon system. To do this, they're going to utilize their preferred browser, and they're going to open that browser and enter the address of your Luxon light controller in the browser address bar. That's going to bring up the software that is run inside your LLC. It's going to prompt you for your password, which we're going to enter, and then we are going to be brought to the landing page of the Luxon light controller, which is always your dashboard. This is where you can get some quick notifications of what the system is doing. And for example, you can see the current fixture count, how many watts those lights are using. We have a node that we've deliberately wired an air into here. So we have a luminaire that's got a wiring air to demonstrate the actual air reporting. We'll explain more about that in a moment. There's a message center that's corresponding to those airs. This can generate emails that will go out to either the client or the servicing technician for the facility. You've got a manual override function here that we can explain more later. You can program exceptions, which again, we're going to explain more later. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to take you to the floor plan section first and get you familiar with what the floor plan does. So in the floor plan here, you've got a list of your lighting groups down the left-hand side. These can be selected so that you are looking at the groups that you're clicking on with these. So you can highlight specific groups and see where those luminaires exist in the building. The ones that we mapped previously in this presentation, we put into group 4. So they're all in the same group right now. And we're going to show you how you can work with some of the features within the floor plan section. Now, this is the device that has the air. You can see when we mouse over this device that we get an abundance of reporting information. You can see that we have a light source air with this product. What that means is we have miswired it and the light can't turn off. So the system has realized that the light can't turn off and it's reporting that air here. But communication status, current wattage of the fixture, current power levels up here, the scene that it's running will explain all these different functions. All Luxon devices contain an internal temperature sensor, so we can always monitor the temperature of the devices inside the facility. This can be particularly useful if you have facilities that are not climate controlled, and high level temperatures can be a potential hazard. Now, normally after your floor plan has been completed, the first thing you're going to want to do is start setting up the group configurations of the luminaires. So you're going to want to put them into groups that match each other. For example, racking. These two luminaires in the racking section are likely going to follow a similar schedule to each other. They may be identical, but if they are identical, then we can select them like this. Now I'm just clicking and I'm dragging a box over top of them, and once I've selected those two lights, it opens up my function here for assign to group up on the top. Now, if I want to put that into one of the existing groups that I've already created, I can choose one of the existing groups, or if I want to create a new group, I can just say new group. What group number do I want that to be? I can say group 10, for example, and I am going to call these my racking lights. Now, for organization visually, you can select different colors for what those icons will be displayed as. So we're just going to choose orange. Now, what's happening here is that wirelessly, we have sent a signal from our Luxon light controller, and we are sending a group update to the racking group, and we're telling that group to go into group 10. So now these two lights are in a different group. This has done it through the mesh network, and they've gone into a new group. Now, you can see this group color has changed. There's no schedule set for this now because we've just created a new group, so we're going to need to set the schedule for it, but we'll do that in a moment. We're going to just choose a couple more groups. Again, to show you the process, we can create a new group for this one, and we're going to call that the, let's say, metal fab area. And again, maybe we'll choose gray for metal. Right. The LLC is going to send the group update. You now see that the icon has actually displayed a new number in the top there to represent the different group. And we'll leave this one in group 4. This is going to stay in the demonstration group. Now, assuming that we've gone and we've changed all our lights, like this floor plan example down here, we've set all the group numbers for the various luminaires. What we're essentially ready to do now is go and give them a schedule. And to give them a schedule, what we typically do is we use the scene control section. So we're going to click on scene control up here. Now, to explain this, a scene can be thought of as a day of the week, an event during the year, perhaps Christmas Day, New Year's. It could also be what we've done here, which is Thursday to Sunday, Monday to Wednesday. A scene is a day that will contain a full 24-hour schedule for each of the lighting groups in the building. So a scene differs from a schedule in that a scene contains many schedules for all of, or it contains all of the schedules for all of the groups in the building. Now, we just created a couple new groups here, the metal fabrication group and the racking lights. So we're going to go in and we're going to click on that one. You can see the eye here. This little eye symbol now tells us that we're looking at the metal fabrication group. Okay, and we're going to be working within the Thursday to Sunday scene here. Now, again, there's no schedule set up, so we're ready to start working on the schedule for the metal fabrication group. The Luxon platform uses a priority structure to create your schedule. Now, you can see we've got high priority and low priority, 1 through 5. Your lowest priority is typically going to be the settings that happen every day, and it's your normal behaviors that your plant or facility is going to run. Now, the way we set the schedule is we can just drag and drop these attributes from the bottom here, and we're going to piece together our schedule. But you can see they're color coded, so we have time only. Now, this is just going to be a fixed power level that we're going to send as a command. It's not going to deviate, it's just going to be a fixed power level, and we can tell it for how long we want it to run. You've got switch functions, daylight harvesting, occupancy sensor dimming, a driver sensor. Now that could be a motion sensor that's connected directly to a driver. You've got a combine function which allows you to piece together 2 different attributes working together. For example, a motion sensor is triggered and then the light is going to go to the light level that the daylight harvesting sensor is saying it should be at. So if you've got natural light present, the light may go to a dim state when the motion sensor tells it to turn on. That's the combine function. And a dimmer, this can be a slide dimmer plugged into your Luxon control unit or sensor bridge. Now, to illustrate how this can work, we can drag a time-only component. And for example, let's say until 5 a.m., we want to have the lights in, let's say, perhaps the off state. So we can say off, and we're going to apply that. So the lights are off at that point. Then at 5 a.m., staff starts to come in, and we'll say until 7 a.m., we want that power level. And let's just make sure we've got this set correctly. We want that to be at a power level of 50%. Now we can switch, the switch speed can be set so that it comes on very fast, medium, or slow. This is how quickly the lights transition to the new power level that we're telling them to go to. So now we've got 2 set components for specific power levels programmed. Now, we may have a point where we've got some natural daylight that's coming in, let's say. So let's say this is a receiving area of a building, perhaps they're shipping docks, and in this morning time frame, they are fairly active, but we want the area to run off of a daylight sensor. So depending on what the natural light levels look like in that area, the system will automatically calibrate. Now, we have not programmed a daylight sensor for this, but this is a default attribute. It's saying when there's lots of natural light, the lights are going to dim to 50%. When there's no natural light, the lights are going to go to 100% power. Now the receiving area has shut down after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's just change this to 1 o'clock. And let's say we want to go until 6 p.m. Now what we're going to do is we've got a bunch of options here that we can choose, but there's a motion sensor that's wired into our LCU. So this is the unit that we're going to configure. And what we want to say is when that motion sensor picks up motion, we may want the lights to go to 75% power. Now you can see that we can quickly change the power level that a motion sensor triggers the lights to go to. This is all done via software. Nobody needs to go up on a scissor lift to access the motion sensor. It's all done via programming. You can do it from your office. So when the motion sensor picks up motion, we go to 75% power. When the motion does not pick up anything, we can say switch off, or we can go to a lower power level if we want to keep safety on our shipping dock. Maybe we just want the lights to go to 10%. Again, we can set our switch speeds. All right, and we can also set the duration in which that motion sensor comes on for. Again, so rather than having to go to the motion sensor on a scissor lift, we can quickly say, all right, when we detect motion, we want the lights to go to 5 minutes, or we want the lights to go to 10 minutes. Maybe you want it tighter and you only want it 2 minutes. You can quickly change that in the software rather than having to access the luminaire itself. So we hit apply, and you can see what's happened here. Let me show you. Okay, I've got an overlapping schedule. So the system is telling me that I've got 2 schedule attributes that are actually overlapping by a certain point. So I can go and quickly check to see where my time overlap is, and right here you can see I've got 13:04, so I've extended that 4 minutes into the other schedule. So to remove a conflict in the schedule, we just correct that back, hit apply, and the orange bar is gone. So it's got some intuitiveness there to help you from creating mistakes in the schedule. After the occupancy sensing is done, we can say perhaps we're going to go back to an off state. So let's say we're going to switch the lights off again, or maybe we want to put them to a fixed power level like standby of 10%. There may be some activity, but we want them to be 10%. So you can see we can completely cut up and customize the activity of a normal day with many different behaviors in the Luxon platform. Now, there may be situations where this is an inadequate schedule, and this is oftentimes where you have override functions that come into play. So switches that you've installed out in the field that will allow you to deviate or override the lower priority schedule that you've got programmed in the system. Now, you may not want these switches to work all day long. Perhaps there's times in the day you don't want your clients or users or employees to be able to override these attributes. So logically, we may put a switch to override the off function. So we can go into the various switches that we got programmed, and here we've got a switch that's run into our LLC. So we're going to program that one, and when that switch is on, perhaps the users need 60% power, so we're going to give them 60% power, and when that switch is off, we're going to let the system go back down to the lower priority, which means it's going to go back down to the everyday schedule. So when we press the button, we override what we normally do. When we release the button, we go back down to the normal schedule that we've set. Again, we can set our transition speeds. Maybe we want these to be fast so that there's no delay whatsoever. We can hit apply, and now we've put an override function for that off segment in our schedule. Now, you can get quite intricate in how that schedule would be put together with the 5 priorities that are available, but for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to leave it at that, and we're going to hit save. So now we have created a schedule for our metal fabrication group for the Thursday to Sunday scene. Okay, so our schedule for Thursday to Sunday is set. Now, over on the side here, you can see that we have a Monday to Wednesday schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's active on those days. These dots correspond over here. And I've got a Thursday through Sunday schedule that's active on those ones. Now, let's say that the metal fabrication group has the same schedule Thursday to Sunday as it does Monday to Wednesday. I have not programmed the Monday to Wednesday schedule. I'm just going to show you a quick, simple function that you can do. You can actually copy. So if the metal fabrication group needs the same schedule on Monday to Wednesday as it has on Thursday to Sunday, we can say copy. We're going to say I want to copy it from the Monday to Wednesday scene. We're going to copy that whole scene. We're going to hit apply. It's going to give us this message saying, are you sure you want to do this? You don't want to overwrite information that you may have. So we hit copy scene. With the metal fabrication group completed, we can move on to the racking group. So this is our racking lights. We're going to select that group. And again, you can see the schedule is empty. Now, for the purpose of demonstration, we are going to say that the racking light group is very similar to the metal fabrication area. So we're going to suggest that the groups are similar enough that rather than recreating the entire schedule, we're going to use this convenient copy function. We're going to say that we're going to start by working with the metal fabrication schedules that we just set for the other group. So I select that one. It's going to bring over all the settings that we just programmed for metal fabrication. And then we can just make the changes that we require that are different in this group. So perhaps in the early morning, instead of the lights being off, we want those on for safety features, such as 10% power. So we're going to change that. And maybe if we need to work in the racks, we need to have a higher light level, so we can turn them up to 80% power if that switch is used. And perhaps at night, we want them off. And maybe those are our changes. Yep. And if you do want them off, then maybe it makes sense to add another switch function here. So we could certainly do that. Again, fixed power level, 80% if we want. And if the switch is off, we're going to go back down to the normal schedule, so a level from a lower priority. We're going to hit apply, and now we've made those changes. So using that copy function is a quicker way of modifying that schedule, given that we've created all the other attributes in the previous group. So when that's done, we'll hit save and move on. Now that our schedules are complete for those groups, we can go and make sure that the schedules are actually programmed for the different days of the week. Now, you can change when a schedule or when a scene is active by using this function over here, and I can simply say, all right, I don't want to run my Monday to Wednesday scene on Wednesday now. Instead, I want to run my Thursday to Sunday. So perhaps the Thursday to Sunday schedule is going to be more applicable for that Wednesday day. So I could change that. Maybe I want to put them all on a Thursday to Sunday schedule. So I can flip it all over, simply hit apply, and now I'm following the Thursday to Sunday schedule, Monday to Friday. The nice thing about scene control is that you can think about these scenes that you're creating as like your toolbox. Perhaps you need to have a scene for shutdown in your manufacturing facility, or you may have an inventory night that you need to run in your retail operation. Perhaps you've got holidays that you want to program and you have specific settings for each group that you need to set in your holidays. You can configure those scenes and all of the schedules for the different groups in scene control, and then simply turn those on and off when you need to alter them. Again, just select the scene from your toolbox, pops up, change to which day of the week you want to do it, hit apply, and you're done. So once the initial commissioning and schedule setting is done, all you have to do is turn these on and off like so. It's that quick to completely alter the schedule for every lighting group in your facility. Now, perhaps you've got a situation where you've got one day where there maybe is some maintenance work that needs to be done. Perhaps you have a maintenance scene that you've configured that has the lights on overnight perhaps, or for whatever period that you need them done. In the exceptions menu, you can program different scenes or schedules to run at different times of the year. Now, perhaps your facility has got a maintenance process that needs to take place, and perhaps that is June 5th of 2018. You know you've got some construction or maintenance that needs to be done, and you want to program your schedule to run your maintenance scene on that day. So we just simply click on that day, and we can go in here, and you can imagine that maybe this scene was called maintenance or construction, some sort of work. So we would select that scene, then we're going to hit apply, and the calendar is going to indicate now that we have an exception programmed on that day. Now, if something changes as you're leading up to that and that day is no longer required, you can simply click on it again, hit remove, and the override or that exception has been changed. Now the nice thing is that you can program these well in advance. So if you want to set your lighting system up to take you well out into the future and program regular exceptions that you have throughout the year, like perhaps Christmas Day, you can program your Christmas Day exception 10 years in advance if you'd like. Again, select December 25th, select the schedule that you want to run, and you're up and running. Once your schedules and exceptions and everything has been programmed in the scene control functions, you can move on to daily operation of your lighting system. Now, we first started off by landing on the dashboard and explaining some of the features, but we're just going to go through the basic widgets that you've got here and show you the information that you can access. By clicking on this, you can see current status. So this is a quick high-level overview of what's going on with your lighting system at this point in time. Again, you've got your error notification here, the error that we've put into the system by miswiring it. If I click on this, it takes me over to the floor plan, where then I can see the luminaire and get more information from it. We've got our message center, which is telling us the unique device ID, this device ID right here, the Nedap Luxon hardware that's operating it, and the error code that we've detected and when that error code occurred. The manual override function is another commonly used widget in the Luxon platform. Now, perhaps you do not want to change the schedule or use the exception function for a deviation from your normal scheduled settings. So you can click on the manual override feature, and you can now go through and customize an override for either all groups or individual groups in your facility. Now, perhaps we need to have the metal fabrication area stay on for a longer period of time than what the schedule normally provides. And we know that's going to happen because there's some overrun. So we're going to say metal fabrication, we need to stay at 60% power, and we need to stay at 60% power for an additional 2 hours. And we want that to start at a certain time. Now, it could be immediately. Now, this could be tomorrow. But we can select exactly when we want that override to begin. So tomorrow I need an extra 2 hours of light, and that is going to be needed at 5 p.m. So I'm going to select the time, and then I can hit create rule. So now I've set up a deviation from the normal schedule with a metal fabrication group. You can see now I could quickly add more groups and I could customize an override for them. Again, I can create that rule. Now if you want to edit the rule after you've created it, you can click on the pencil and you can get in here and edit it. Now the racking group, we may want to stay off rather than 4 or 5 minutes. Maybe we want to stay off until a certain point in time in the day. So instead of for a certain amount of time, you can say I want it to stay off until 7 p.m. We've edited that, we hit create rule, now we hit apply. The icon has indicated that the override has been implemented, and that's how quickly we've changed our schedule. Once those overrides reach their expiration period, the switch will automatically turn off and these overrides will be removed from the history here. So they'll just disappear and your system goes back to indicating that there's no override active. From the dashboard here, you do have a quick link to make an exception. So you can simply click on that widget and take you back into the exceptions, which we've already covered. And it's important to note that you can add and remove these widgets as required to customize your dashboard page the way that you'd like to see it. At this time, you may want to have your Luxon system connected to the Nedap Luxon Live server environment to access additional reporting features. Please feel free to contact your local representative to have your solution connected. Now that your schedules are all set and your scenes are configured, your Luxon platform is ready to use. Please feel free to visit nedap.com for further information or contact your local representative for assistance. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you.